Hey, 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 we are back. We are back talking about the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And this book, if you look at the top, it says for men and women who resent poverty. So this book gives us 13 steps as to how we can attain riches. We are now on the 11th step, which is called the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is the link between man's finite mind and infinite intelligence. So that's what the subconscious mind is. And what it says about this is that every thought, every impulse that we have, it reaches the mind through the five senses and is classified and let me turn that off and recorded. And the thing that's good about it is that, well, good and bad, is that it can recall or withdraw whatever it needs to at any given time. So basically, if it's a negative thought, it can still pull and withdraw that negative thought that you had about something. And so when I was reading this, it reminded me of the movie Inside Out. I don't know how many of you have seen that. It's an animated movie by Pixar, but it's about a girl, I forget her name, but her emotions, it's the same thing. She has joy, she has anger, she has, I forget what all of them are, but whatever her emotions are, depending on what the circumstances that she's experiencing, she files them each in each little compartment, whether it's joy, anger, disgust, whatever it is, right? And that's kind of what this subconscious mind does too. It is filing whatever our thoughts are in different compartments, and they can be recalled or withdrawn as needed. There were some things that I thought was interesting in reading this chapter. It's a pretty short chapter, so it doesn't take long to read. But it's said that you can voluntarily plant thoughts, right? We can create the thoughts we want, which then would go to your subconscious mind. And I thought that that was powerful. It also says that it acts first on the dominating desires that we have. And if we mix emotions in there, that is more willing to keep a hold of that. So I thought that was interesting. And so whether you make an effort when you're having a thought or not, it still is going to if you make an effort to influence it, I guess maybe is a better way to say it. It still is going to be um, part of your subconscious mind. I'm trying to look and see what my notes say. And basically, I guess I should just say that you can't let your let it feed on thoughts as a result of your neglect. So basically, whether you choose to plant things in your mind so that your subconscious can react to that, or you don't. So whether you're living by default or design, you're still living. It's just a matter as to how you're living, right? And we all know thoughts are things, and our thoughts is what creates our reality. So we need to be mindful of the thoughts that we have, because those thoughts are actually getting to our subconscious mind, and we end up living out what it is that we think. And let me see what else it said. The subconscious mind is always working day and night. It said it never goes off. It never sleeps. So be mindful of that. And I'm sure a lot of you can attest to the times you wake up in the middle of the night with something on your mind and you're like, where did this come from? Like, I thought I let this go before I went to bed, and there it is again. But the subconscious mind never sleeps. I at one point was doing yoga nidra, Nidra. And it's this video, it's an audio that I listened to before I went to bed at night. And it's supposed to help you with the subconscious so that you're thinking the good stuff and not necessarily anything that's going to be bad, because your subconscious mind, again, is what's going to create your reality. The chapter also talked about autosuggestion, which is one of the things we talked about in the past, one of the steps. And if you go back to that one, I gave you instructions as to how to use it for your subconscious mind. But basically, it applies to the stimuli that you think, and it reaches the mind, as I said, through the five senses. And so it's really the communication between your conscious mind and the subconscious mind. That's what autosuggestion is. So it talked about that. It also talked about desire and how you need to repeat your desire over and over again. And then before you wake up, well, when you wake up and before you go to bed, to say it out loud again. And it also says for you to write it down. Now, we talked about vision, I believe, at one point. If we didn't talk about it, I talked about it to someone else. How it's important to write it down, because when you write it down, you're more apt to get things done. And so it says that if you do write it down, that you visit it in the morning and before you go to bed too. And I always also said everything is created, everything that's created started with a thought, and thoughts are things. So just be mindful of that. But this is a pretty short but interesting conversation, and it's definitely one for us to remember. It talked about 7 major positive emotions, and I'll give those to you. One is the emotion of desire, then emotion of faith, the emotion of love, the emotion of sex. We talked about that last week or the last time. The emotion of enthusiasm, the emotion of romance, and the emotion of hope. But he also talked about the 7 negative emotions: fear, jealousy, hatred, revenge, greed, superstition, and anger. So we know that positive and negative emotions cannot occupy the mind at the same time. So when you notice a negative emotion coming on, switch it to make it positive. That's all I can give you. Don't focus on the negative, because what you focus on is what's gonna expand. And if it's something negative, then guess what? That's what's going to expand, and we don't want that. So I think that that's it for this chapter. I am getting hot over here. You may not be able to tell, but I'm looking a little shiny. You know what? That's just the glow of the light. I'm just feeling hot on the inside because I had some pepper. And anytime I eat pepper, it just makes me hot. And so there's a delayed reaction to it, but nonetheless. But it's another thing. One thing I'll share in here, I always talk about how you can't have faith and fear at the same time, because it will hold you paralyzed. If you have faith in one hand, fear in the other, and they're both pulling you, you're going to remain right where you are and not move anyway. So you have to decide which one you want to let go of. And the reality is that you can't have faith and fear at the same time. So you have to choose. He says, where one is found, the other cannot exist. So choose faith and just go after whatever it is that you want. And the things that you desire, if you follow these steps, I'm sure you will see some changes in your life, which will make you more willing to continue to follow these steps and just really think differently, right? Because that's all it's about. It's really about the mindset and what we believe and how we choose to use our mind, and realizing that we actually can control what our mind thinks about. I this morning woke up with something on my mind, and I've been trying this new thing of sleeping without the TV. And so, of course, when there's no noise, I just have a little bit of sound, my mind can go racing. And I was racing on something that I'm like, where did this come from? And I had to keep telling myself every time I noticed my mind going to that thought, like, no, you're not going there. Like, you get to train your mind. You get to do that. And it's not easy. It's just something that is part of, that you'll continue to develop and learn to master one day, maybe. Probably never master it as we should, but you definitely can get better at it if you just are aware of that. You get to do that, and just be aware of the thoughts that you have. And when you have the ones that's not serving you, to let them go. Okay, so that's it for this week. I appreciate you and your patience, because it's been 2 weeks since I've done this. Last week I just couldn't. I had got some bad news in regards to one of my loved ones, and I just was not in the mood to do this. But next week we will be back. We are going into the 12th step, which is the brain. So I look forward to talking to you then. Alrighty. Take care, everyone. Love you.